What in the world is happening with King County real estate? Oh, this is awesome. All right, so you're looking at the standard, my standard, the graph I normally start with, which is supply and demand, new listings, green, new listings, listings that came on, blue, demand, ones that went under contract. And you can see we were wondering if June was going to be higher than May or under May, and it's under May. So some years June is a little bit higher, some years it's a little bit lower. This year it's a little bit lower. It's better than April. This is pretty typical. Okay, it would have been really surprising had it been higher, but that it's still a considerable amount of inventory. So what we can fairly well predict at this point is that inventories, new listings are going to go down. Okay, the number of people that are going to list their homes is going to go down in King County. That'd be predictable. All right, and buyers are up just a little bit, some buyer activity, but you can also tell that buying activity is ready to go down as well. So what does this ultimately mean? Well, this doesn't necessarily tell the story like this does. Look at this. Not new listings, but active listings. Let's just look at active listings for a minute. So that tells a story. The number of active listings in the market, what do you see? That's up month after month after month this year. In other words, there's more and more inventory for people to choose from. Now that should start to go down. Why? Because the number of listings, the new listings, is going to go down. But that is an enormous delta between the number of homes that are being bought and the number of homes that are available. You notice how you don't see that the last 2 years? You know how far back you got to go to see that? You don't know. You don't know. Why would you know? Why would you know? That's why you came here, for me to tell you. But look, I will tell you. I will show you. I will do better than tell you. This is show and tell, people. Here's the show part. Look at that. You got to go back to 2019, literally till 2019, to see this number of homes in the market. And you may not remember. Why? I don't know why you would remember, because you weren't in the business, but I was. And 2019, it was like impossible to get a home sold. It was like, what are we doing here, people? And there were more buyers then than there are now. So ultimately, this is going to be a slower time to get your home sold. Now, I say all that, and we just listed a home last week, and we sold it at $150,000 over asking, and that was the second time that month that we did that. What is it? What am I talking about? It means if you price your home correctly, buyers will come and they will see it, and you will get it sold. I mean, we had about 150 showings. We sent 10 pre-inspections out, but we only got 4 offers. You used to be able to send 10 pre-inspections out and get 8 offers. Now you get less than half. There's less buyers and they're more conservative. That was the entire point of raising interest rates, was to make there be harder to buy a house, right? To make it stop having it be so crazily cheap to buy a house. So if you're selling, you need to price it really, really intelligently. You are not going to get what you could get for it 2 years ago. You're just not. And it's not going to be as easy. But could you get it sold? You absolutely could. If your expectations match this market, you can get your home sold. Now, if you're a buyer, good times, right, in the city. This is really a hot time in the city for you. Why? Because you got the pick of the litter here, people. You look at this. I mean, what do you want? This is an amazing opportunity. These number of homes available in King County and just this much competition. So, if it's still sitting there on the market after a week or 2 weeks, it means the seller was unrealistic in their price and you can negotiate a better price. Whether or not the seller agrees, you shall see. But if it's still sitting there after a week and 2 max, you have some negotiating power that you have not had in the last couple of years. So good time to be a buyer. Sellers need to be really, really, really smart about selling their house, but they still can. I mean, we certainly are. So you got questions about King County real estate? That is what I am here for. My name is Aaron Hendon. I'm with Christine and Company EXP. I will talk to you next month. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you in the meantime. Hey, what in the world's happening with Kitsap Real Estate? All right, well, here's the same disclaimer. If you watch King County or Pierce County or any of the other counties that precede this, let me just let you know, Kitsap is behaving exactly like those. So if you don't need to see the proportions exactly, Kitsap, any of the other counties are doing just this. This is region-wide phenomena. So you're looking at the supply and demand graph for Kitsap County over the last 2 years, and you can see the green is the supply. There were slightly less new homes put to market in June compared to May, which is typical. Sometimes June is a little bit higher, sometimes it's a little bit lower. It's higher than April. It's the second best month of the year. Pretty typical. All right. And buying demand is pretty flat. Okay. Now, if you look at what that winds up meaning, here's the active listings, the number of homes people can choose from. That's a lot of homes. Now, it's not as many as King County, but it's still, compared to the number of buyers, there are way more homes available. And you'd have to go back to like 2019 to get something like this to happen again. That's 6 years. Okay. That's a long time. And what that ultimately means is if you're selling, you need to be smart. You need to know you are not selling in a competitive market. You're selling in a very not competitive market. In other words, there's a lot of competition. You need to compete, right? You need to compete. But the market overall, there's just a ton of it, right? Buyers are not going to be competing for you. You need to compete for buyers. Why? Because there's more of you, way more of you than there are buyers. That's just the way that works. It's not me. I'm not telling you something that I'm making up. If there's more sellers than buyers, especially in proportions like this, you need to learn to compete, which means you have to price it right. You need to stage it right. You need to do everything right to get that home sold. Now, we've been selling homes over asking price because we get our sellers to get the right expectation. And when you get the price low enough, buyers will compete. Okay. So that's where you want to be. You want to be in a place where buyers need to compete. You do not want to put the buyers in a negotiating position because then they will have the upper hand. And in this case, if you're a buyer and you're watching this, you have the upper hand. There are more homes for you to choose from than there have been in any time since 2019. You have the pick of the litter. Any home that's on the market for more than 10 days, you should be able to start to get concessions from. Now, that seller may be obstinate and may be willing to wait, fine. But if it didn't sell in the first week, 2 weeks, they overpriced it 100% of the time. And it's going to need to come down in price. So you have some options. You can get concessions, you can get closing costs, you can get repairs, all sorts of things you can negotiate. And I would work that massively. I'm telling all my buyers, now's the time to strike. July and August should be really, really, really good for buyers. If you're selling, you got to wake up and know that you need to compete with this. This is how it is. So every house is different and every neighborhood's different. Every person's different. Every buying situation's different. Requires a special look. Let me know what I can do for you. Happy to answer your questions. Aaron Hendon with Christine and Company at EXP. Talk to you next month. Hey, what in the world's happening with Pierce County real estate? Well, let me show you something, people, because this is interesting. First of all, if you watch the King County update, you can probably skip this because it's almost identical to King County, different proportions, but almost identical. If you're Pierce County centric and you didn't watch King County, let me tell you. All right. This is the new, green is new inventory, new homes that came to market. Blue is the numbers that went under contract. And we were wondering if June, actually, this is June, would bring more listings or less. Some Junes it brings more, some Junes it brings less. It's always pretty close. This year it was less, and it's pretty close. Okay. But you still have quite a gap between the number of people buying and the number of people listing. There's more people listing than buying. There's more inventory. Let me show you really what that winds up looking like, because here's a number we don't always look at, but it's worth looking at today. And that's active listings. Here you go. there are more active listings than any time in the last 2 years. More available homes in any time in the last 2 years. In fact, you'd probably have to go back if it's like King County. Let's see how many years you got to go back. Come on, little buddy. Oh, the computer's being so slow. The little gophers in there, little hamsters in the wheel. Very slow. There it is. Okay. Yeah, you got to go back to 2019, 2018 to see this much available inventory. Okay. That's a long time ago. And what you don't know about that 2019, 2018 time was it was really slow and it was really surprising to a lot of people. Like, wow, 30 days on market. Wow, it's hard to sell. That's what we're walking into. There's just without a doubt, that's what we're walking into. That's what this gap between the number of active listings and buyers means. So, what does that mean for you? Well, if you are selling your home, you need to price it like it's 2025, like it's July of 2025. You cannot price it like you can't even price it like it was July of 2024. There's more inventory. There's more options for people to buy. There's more competition, supply and demand. It's not just a good idea. It's the law. I mean, really, it is like that. So now look, we've been selling houses over asking price regardless, because we talk sense into our sellers and they lower their initial price so we can bounce it up. I'd rather have people compete than negotiate. I want them competing with me, not negotiating down. So you got to price it. You got to reset your expectations. You are not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. This is a different market. But if you get the right expectations and the right mindset, you'll be fine. Buyers, it is a good summer for you, my friends. You have more inventory to choose from. You got more houses to look at. You got negotiating power. If that house has been on the market for more than 10 days, they are overpriced. They may not realize it yet, but they are overpriced and you should have some leverage. The longer it goes, the worse it gets for them. That's how it is. So you should have some leverage. You shouldn't have to do pre-inspections. You should be able to negotiate repairs, closing costs, all sorts of good stuff. This is a good summer to be a buyer. And then renegotiate the interest rate if interest rates go down. But a very good time to be a buyer. All right. If you have questions about this, because every house is different, every neighborhood is different, every area, everything requires a unique view. That's what I'm here for. I work Pierce County, so let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Aaron Hendon with Christine and Company over at EXP. I'll talk to you next month. Hey, what in the world's happening with Snohomish County real estate? Oh, let's check it out. Here we go. All right, so if you watch King County or Pierce County, this is the same. So you don't need to watch this. If you're Snohomish centric and you only want Snohomish, I'll go through everything again. But this is the case across the region. Excuse me. All right, you're looking at the supply and demand graph for the last 2 years here in Snohomish. Green is supply, new listings that came to market. Blue is the demand, homes that went under contract. All right, so what do you see? Well, June was under May, which happens, right? Happened last year. Sometimes June is just a little bit over May. We weren't sure which way it was going to go because we're never sure about the future. But it's still over April, still second best month of the year, number-wise. None of that's surprising, okay? What it does mean, though, is that there is a lot of available inventory, and I'll show you what that looks like here. That's the number. This is the number of available homes. And if we go back, it would be 2019 before you saw this many homes available. And there's less buyers today than there was in 2019. And given you likely were not in the business in 2019, I can tell you it was shocking how hard it was to sell a home. It was surprising to all the sellers. This should not be surprising at this point. This is the way it's going. It's going to be more difficult to sell a home in this market than it has been any time since 2019. That's supply and demand. I don't know what else to tell you about it. There's more opportunities for people to buy. and there's less buyers. More supply, less demand. That's the way that works. Now, we've been selling homes over asking price because we've had our sellers adjust their asking price so it's realistic, and we've gotten them more than they expected, because when you have people compete versus price to negotiate lower, you get more. Now, you got to have some stones to do that, but it works. If you're going to price to negotiate, you're going to wind up in that green section above the blue. You're going to wind up sitting, which means if you're a buyer, you want to find those sellers because there is room to negotiate. And there should be plenty of choices and plenty of room to negotiate this summer. That's really predictable that would happen. So if you're selling, sell it like it's like you can price it today. You got to get away from your recency bias. You got to go away from your confirmation agreement. You got to go away from what you expected last year had you sold last year. It is not last year. It's this year. It's today. And today you're selling in a market where there is more homes available and less buyers. And you just have to know that. And if you're buying, come on, let's go. Let's go. Let's go take the pick of the litter. Let's go find those unrealistic sellers and cherry pick the best house and get them to pay closing costs and repairs and incentives and buy down interest rates. All that stuff is coming. That's this market for you. All right. Now, you got questions about that? Because every house is unique and every buyer is unique and everything requires a special eye. That's what I'm here for. I'd love to help you with that. Aaron Hendon with Christine and Company at EXP. I will talk to you next month. Bye. What in the world's happening with Vashon Real Estate? This is wild. Okay, so hang on. There we go. Someone's getting the EMTs. All right, so here's what we got. This is the supply and demand. This is new listings compared to buyers for the last 2 years. Green is the new listings. Blue are the buyers. Look, buyers are going down. Buyers are going down on Vashon. And the new listings, new listings went down a little. Pretty typical for our region. Completely consistent with every other county around us. That May was higher than June, but none of that's atypical. Okay. But what is wild, I think, because I think numbers are wild. That's the new listings. Look at the active listings for a minute. Look at that. There are more homes to buy now than there have been in any time since 2019. There are more homes available with less buyers than 2019. More inventory, less demand. Supply, demand. It is not just a good idea, people. It is the law. That means prices are going to be suppressed. I don't think you're going to see a fallout of prices, but you definitely are not getting what you could have gotten last year. If you compare this year to last year, you're not getting what you could have gotten last year. But why would you do that? Because you can't go back in time. So let's not look at what you could have gotten last year. Let's look at how to maximize what you got now. If you need to sell right now, good, then I would be really wary of or cognizant of the fact that you are going to need to compete. Buyers are not going to be competing for your house. There's just not enough of them, and there's more for them to choose from. I know we're used to buyers competing for houses in our region. That is not the case on Vashon. Certainly not the case now. You have to price it so that buyers see it as an enormous value and get them to compete. If you can get buyers to compete, you can get closer to the price you could have gotten last year. We've done this several times already. You can definitely do that, but you need to know it is not 2022. It is not 2023. It is just not. You have way, way, way more homes to choose from than you did. Now it depends. Price points are unique. Quality, condition, location, everything is a variable. Everything matters. So you can't just make a blanket about it. But overall, if you're going to look at the market condition into which you're selling, it is not competitive from a buyer standpoint. You have the pick of the litter. You should be able, if it's on the market for more than 10 days, 2 weeks on Vashon, They overpriced it because had they priced it right, it would have attracted people from off. Any of the buyers that were looking at Vashon would have come, looked at it, and bid it up. The fact that it's sitting there means they may not be ready to make a concession, but they're certainly not getting full price at 2 weeks. They're just not. And if you don't price it right, that's what you're going to be looking at. So I would be super, super conservative about this, because that delta between buyers and sellers hasn't been this way. I mean, if we go back, let's just go back 10 years. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You haven't seen this since 2019. And even then, in 2019, there were more buyers than there are now. I don't know I don't know how you spin that in any way other than you, as a seller, need to reset expectations and learn how to market your house. Learn how to price it. Pricing is part of marketing. Market that house well. You'll be able to get top dollar for it, but it's just not going to be what it was a couple of years ago. You just got to get used to that. And if you're buying, this is a great time to be a buyer. A great time to be a buyer on Vashon, because there's more to choose from, and you should be able to swing concessions, buyer, closing costs, interest rate buy downs, all kinds of things you should be able to get. Now, every case is different. Location is different. Quality is different. Buyers' needs are different. So don't just take this and go, okay, well, every case is like this. No, there are definitely pinpoint differences. So give me a call. Let's talk about your situation and what you're looking for, or what you're looking to get for your house, and let's get that to happen. Okay? Aaron Hendon, Christine and Company, EXP, Party on Wayne. See you next month.